This is an excerpt from my novel, Encantado. Simon Knight is a high school senior, and Ben Brickman is his best friend. "Careful," Ben said. He cupped the crown of my head, guiding me under a pair of low-hanging beams. We squeezed between the 2x4s until we were officially outside again, with everything the house would soon exclude. The chain-link fence surrounding the summit formed a temporary boundary for the backyard. After that, the hill dropped steeply. I could see Vera's swimming pool and the whitewood gazebo, my parents' roofed porch. Paseo del Rio forked to Main Street, its trees ripe with mini pumpkin lights. Apricot Lake reflected fluorescence from the high school and the twinkling bulbs of docked boats. Street lamps met the sky in a brown-orange haze, and Disneyland fireworks twinkled in the distance. "So what do you think?" Ben asked. "It's nice." "Nice," he scoffed. "Come on." He dug through rubble, unearthing a sleeping bag he'd stashed. The bag caught on some chicken wire, but instead of unhooking it, Ben yanked harder. He smacked dust from the fabric and laid it out by the fence. We sat cross-legged on the sleeping bag with our knees touching. I felt for the rip in the polyester. "Would you do it here?" he asked. I laughed, shoved him. "Well, maybe if I was wined and dined a little." Ben snorted, pinching at frayed ends. "But I got you a house frame and everything." He rocked himself on his feet so his knee pressed down on mine. I tipped towards him, close enough that I could smell his sweat. Crickets chorused around us, and the wind whistled through our house. There was no light here, just the familiar, slouching mass of his body next to mine. Huh. I laughed again, not knowing what to say. Ben twirled a loose thread with his finger. "It's funny," he said. "For the first time, I feel like this town is really ours." "It is funny," I said. Cerro Vista looked small and defensible, a matchbox city. I balled the sleeves of Ben's hoodie in my fists. I wanted to lean my forehead on his shoulder, to stare into the measurable dark between us. How much more could I ask of him? A house, a view, and this. My head heavy, full with a feeling as intoxicating as sleep. Ben coughed into his fist. A roar filled my ears like water boiling. I lowered my head. My jeans shifted on the sleeping bag, polyester screeching. Now he would know. He would duck away again. Convinced, I tipped past my balancing point. I knew nothing, expected nothing. Ben did not move away. My cheek rested on his shoulder. My head butted his neck. It was so clear I could have screamed it. He propped himself up with both hands. "I want to have sex with Vera Hutton," he said. "Do you think she's a virgin?" I turned my head to say, "She's popular." The round of his shoulder muffled my ear. "That doesn't it usually?" Ben was quiet. He tugged a rubber flap on the sole of his shoe. My knuckles itched. He shrugged his shoulders. I picked at the orange crust between my first and second knuckles. "You think Dylan and Vera come up here?" "Oh man," Ben said. He looked like they could be anywhere close. I strained to hear the beating of his heart. The crust came away under my fingernail. "Can you imagine that?" I said, "doing it outside? Sure beats jacking off at the computer. With Trish from V-Love. Oh my God, Trish." I said, "I bet Vera has the biggest tits." Ben tensed. I heard the rebuff, his shoulder jolting my ear. How did I screw up now? He could be, at times, unpredictably prudish. "Who do you want to have sex with, Cy?" I pulled my head off his shoulder. "I don't know. You don't know. His mouth hung open, first shocked, then teasing. His fat tongue rolled out. You know, he said. You just won't tell. He took the lighter from his pocket. I followed him back to the house, where a lonely 2x4 slanted 45 degrees to the ground. Sandbags and chunks of brick anchored the beam in place. Ben unrolled his apron with a flash of wrist. Wrapped inside was a white trash bag. He forced the 2x4 through the bag, then sparked the lighter, cupping the flame in his palm. Zits cast shadows across his cheeks. You know you can tell me, right? Ben glanced over his cupped palm, and I stared back at a masked bandit. I mean, if you want to. The fire in his eyes seared my skin. I know. I held the trash bag in place, blocking the wind with my body. He stroked the flame inside the bag, and those inside looked brighter, like a candle whose wick was near bottom. For a while, nothing happened. I studied the trash bag, wondering if the flame had caught. You probably want a girl to confide in, Ben said finally. My dad said girls are easier to talk to than guys once you get the hang of it. I don't think so, I began. Sizzling surprised me as drops of molten plastic hit the ground beneath the 2x4. I forgot what I was saying and closed my mouth. Ben's tongue hung out. The sizzling grew louder, as if the trash bag contained millions of popcorn kernels aching to burst. As the plastic melted, it drizzled the ground like acidic bird shit, kicking up clouds of dust and smoke. Ben threw his arm around my shoulder. This wish is for the great Simon Knight. May he figure out who he wants to have sex with and do it. He made me feel warm and happy in his hoodie, like I was in the middle of everything, like I was his hood, chosen from all his dad's clothes to be made Ben's own. I watched the compactor bag's smoky contrails whiz through the open air. Embers swirled like fireflies, winking in and out. The bag folded in on itself, retracting waxy tendrils into the comfort of the body. I knew who I wanted to have sex with. Girls don't make any sense, I had to shout over the sizzling bag. I think most of them are just crazy. Can't argue with that, Ben said. An airplane flew overhead, broadcasting light and noise like a man-made star. That's the good thing about you and me, I said. Relationships are too stressful. We can always count on each other. Yeah, Ben said. But dating Vera Hutton would be something, wouldn't it? The bag liquefied as the fire consumed it. I scratched my head, digging through my hair to the scabs below. Cerro Vista's streetlights wavered in the heat. I pinched the scabs off one by one. What do you think she and Dylan were talking about in her room, he asked again. I glared at Ben the way Vera might if someone crossed her. I hardened her voice. Dream on, death boy. You'll grow wings before she invites you up. We watched the trash bags shrivel into a smoky chrysalis. Ben's eyes fuzzed over. He nodded even though there was nothing to nod about. Dreaming she was here.